So first of all, I need to update my CV, isn't it? We've said not for profit, we removed that word, so I'm going to do that. But when Chris wrote to me and said, can you come and speak, I was very excited for two reasons. One, I was going to run away from the Nairobi cold, because right now in Nairobi, it's around 11 degrees. So I'm very happy to be in Uganda and in Kampala. And the second reason is that we're talking about money. Is there anyone here who doesn't like money? We like money. Yeah, I'm not sure, I can't hear. Is there anyone, okay, we've just had lunch, yeah? If you don't like money, please stand up. You don't like money, but you use money. Okay, how many, you see, this is why you're in this room. Oh, you don't like money. Does he look like he doesn't like money? Okay, but we know money can do things for us, isn't it? Now, the problem with this mic, it means I have to stand here because I like walking around. So I think the production team will put up the presentation. How many of us here, I'm sorry, this is going to get very personal. How many of us here have a little money put aside for a rainy day? Let's stand up if you have money put aside for a rainy day. Just stand, be bold, be bold, be bold. Oh, fantastic. For security reasons, you don't want to stand. You know, having money put aside for a rainy day, it doesn't mean it has to be millions, eh? It can even be 1,000, 10K. Now, I get confused with the exchange rate because in Kenya, 10,000 is a lot of money. It's not a lot here. Okay. So we have money for a rainy day. Let's clap for them. Now, my discussion today, and I'm sorry, I'm going to give the photography people, there's money for sunny days. Okay, how many of us have money for sunny days? For those who may not understand, money for sunny days is for that handbag, for those shoes. For gentlemen, I don't know what, for? Okay, I'm hearing things that maybe I shouldn't say. And I must apologize to the videographer guys because of walking around. But when we talk about endowments, let me make it very, very simple. We're talking about putting money aside so the day that is raining heavily, not normal Kampala rain, but that rain that brings down houses and causes floods, you have some money to keep you going. Are we together? That's what an endowment is. So I want to draw the distinction between having a reserve fund and having an endowment. A reserve fund is also very important. So if we take this to the personal level, your savings, which financial planners tell us you must have at least 6 months of your living expenses. We have had that. 6 months of your living expenses in your savings. That is your reserve fund from an organizational point of view. We're together. But an endowment is equivalent to your pension. We have pension? Do we have pensions? We understand pensions. That is, I would say, from a personal perspective, the closest I would give to explain what an endowment is. Now, I don't know if this, does this make this go? Oh, yes, even me, I'm learning. Now, what I wanted us to go through today is for us to have a very good understanding. What is an endowment? What kind of structure do you need to have when you have an endowment? What do you need to look out for? And I'll really be sharing a lot of the KCDF experience because we share our story so that you don't have to make the mistakes we have made as an organization. But the other thing, and the reason why I was also excited to be part of this conversation, is to emphasize that we must normalize having endowments. I don't know how many of us receive funding either past or present. How many of us have received funding from Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation? How many of us, or we don't want to say who funds us? It's a secret. Carnegie, Hilton Foundation. Part of the money you receive is from their endowments, okay? So the reason why we want to normalize this conversation in Africa is because as discussions have been here yesterday, today, we recognize funding is dwindling. But if we don't start building our own resources for this coming continuous rainy day, then we will shut down. We are quite a number of civil society organizations, but we are dependent on donor funding. But an endowment is where you've put money aside, you've watched the money grow, and now you're taking the fruits of that money. So think of an endowment as a seed that you plant. When you plant a seed, let's imagine that it's an avocado plant. You plant the seed. Do you go and dig up the seed to eat it? Do you? But you plant it, you water it, isn't it? You watch it grow. So anyone who is here hoping for a quick get-rich scheme, sorry, you're in the wrong room. Endowments take time. So it's like a plant, it's like a seed. You plant it, you water it, you watch it grow. How long does it take for avocados to start bearing fruit? The farmers in the house? 5 years, 10 years, 5 to 9 years. Under 1 year. Okay, that's why I'm not a farmer. But you plant, you cover, you water, you take care of it. With an endowment, you don't go and uproot the seed because you're hungry. You wait for the fruit to germinate. Now that fruit, you don't take all the fruits and eat them. So you'll be back to square one. You take a few of those fruits, you eat, but the seed, again, you go and plant it. By the end of the day, what will you have? Won't you have a big farm? Because you're continuously putting back into the ground. So endowments, and we can move to the next slide, really is a key way for us to ensure our sustainability. Because we are constantly having money that we are plowing back in, we're investing that money, and it's only part of the profit that we take to then put towards our programs. So I hope for those who were here earlier and said they've heard of endowments, not too clear, I hope I've explained it in a way that it's easy as we get out of this room to explain to our colleagues, isn't it? So it's about what you take money, you invest it, but it's only part of the profit that you take up. When you do that, then you're able to make sure that even as you go along, because you're constantly investing, constantly making money, you have something to keep you going. So when KCDF was being formed, this is about 28 years ago, there was a big discussion in Kenya around issues of development. And it was felt that as much as there was funding, development and the funding wasn't reaching the community level. And so the founders of KCDF said, we're going to set up a community foundation, but it's going to be different from community foundations in the US and in the UK. Because community foundations in the US and the UK, you'll find it's a benefactor or a very well-resourced individual who says, I want to give back, I'll give the seed money, invest it, and then the profit goes towards community work. But our founders said that because we work at the community level, our initial funding needs to come from communities. And that's how KCDF was started. So there was a very big fight, between our first executive director and one of the organizations that was helping us set up our endowment. And this story is told in our book you can get from our website. Because the organization that was helping us set up had come from America, and they felt, no, go to people who have a lot of wealth and ask them to fund your work. But she said, how will this work if we're saying we're a community foundation and communities are not contributing? So one of the narratives we push back on as KCDF is to say that when people say communities do not have resources, we say that's not true. Because our endowment, apart from having KCDF funds, it has funds of 26 other community groups. These are not big organizations. These are community groups that raised money and have put it for us to manage within the endowment. So as we're managing our KCDF funds, we also have the funds of other community groups that are within our endowment program. And so in terms of when we started out, and I go back to the story, the feeling also was that we needed to have an organization that could fund its own work. That all the money we put in was money that was ours or money we had raised locally. So that was the dream 28 years ago. We're still on the journey. Right now, our funds, 30% are locally raised, but 70% we receive externally. So we're still on a journey. And this is to encourage you not to feel that everything has to be achieved in one day, but you must take the first step. You must have the buy-in. And I saw from the poll, some of the challenges we have is mindset, but also corruption. And I'll come to that when it comes to how you manage your endowment. So if you move to the next slide, in terms of the conversation that we must have our own money, that's when the decision was made that we needed to set up our own endowment. So what did we do? Because people will ask, yes, you were lucky. At that time, it was the 90s. There was a lot more money. But we had to raise money by doing events. So we held different events, public events. We had dances, we had competitions, we had golf tournaments to raise our portion. Then, luckily, we discussed this with the funder, and we told the funder for every shilling that we raise, match it. So that's what the funder did. That's how we were able to start our endowment. Now, we invested that, and up to today, that's part of the money. Whenever we're going through a hard time, that money comes to the foundation for us to undertake our work. What's the point of this story? Is that you must start somewhere, and there's something that you have. You cannot say that you have nothing. You know, we've heard from, yesterday, the conversation around what people have been doing to raise money locally. So even that local money that you raise can help you start your endowment. Am I starting to convince you or not yet? Is it very academic? No? Are you getting convinced? Okay, I'm hoping I'm changing some minds. That you can start with either part of your reserve funds, you can do events to raise your initial capital, or even encouraging people to give you a gift to start your endowment. And why would they do that? You tell them you want to be sustainable. We don't want to be here today, gone tomorrow. So there really needs to be an emphasis around that. So, sorry, you need to move to the next slide. They're just explaining what endowments are, what are the benefits. A key benefit is that it helps you at the negotiating table. When you meet with a funder and you're able to say, you want to fund our work, you want to support us, even if it's a corporate, a local funder, if you're able to say, we also have this we're bringing to the table, does that put you at a good place? Does that? It does, isn't it? So it helps you in terms of your own autonomy, your own able to push your story, able to make sure that you're an equal partner at the negotiating table. It helps you leverage, but it also gives your staff comfort to know that even when things are bad, there'll still be some resources that can keep the organization going. So it's a very, very important issue for us to look into. So if I now come into the nuts and bolts, if you move to the key attributes of an endowment, like I've said, how do you raise the seed? I've talked about you can do events, you can talk to a funder to give you part of the reserve, you can be able to get resources from someone who is willing to help you set this up. You can move to the next slide, please. Oh, is it me? Oh my gosh. Are you seeing I'm here telling people move to the next slide, and my apologies. So the key, okay, don't worry, you'll get the slides. The key attributes is very important, but like I said, how do you start raising the initial amount? And then from there, making sure that you put it in a trusted investment vehicle. For those of you who have pensions, do you know where your pension is going? Do you? Yeah? We know, especially those of us who are close to retirement, we are more keen, isn't it? You must know where your money is going. Those of us who put savings, do you know where your money is? Do you keep up in terms of whether it's growing, not growing, or once it's there, it's okay? So for personal finance, you must track where your money is. Make sure your money is working for you when you're sleeping. Same thing with the endowment. So what you must make sure is that you have a trusted investment vehicle you've put your money in. So you want to make sure, one, you're beating inflation. Anywhere, even from a personal perspective, anywhere you're putting money and you're not beating inflation, you know you're losing money. We understand that? So at a minimum, you must beat inflation. On top of inflation, you must make some profit. So for us, in terms of the investments where we put our money, we make sure that we tell the investment, whether it's an investment manager, there are minimums they must commit to. Their fees must be low, so you must look into that. Do not take the fees that are thrown at you. You negotiate, you find out what are the fees within the sector, and then you make sure that they're beating inflation and giving you above that. Because that's what business people do. They make sure that their money is working for them. But you must have a trusted group that is overseeing that, because accountability is very, very important. Now, I've talked about the benefits of endowment, but for those who may still not be convinced, having money from your endowment enables you to fund things that you're passionate about as an organization that nobody is willing to fund. We're together. Very, very important. You want to test something, you want to expand in an area, having an endowment enables you to do that. Let's say, for instance, as an organization, you want to upgrade your system. No funder is willing to fund you. You can use proceeds from your endowment to undertake that. So there are different types of endowments. You can look into that. A lot of this information is available online. There are term endowments, which is for a particular amount of time. There are restricted endowments where if you're getting a gift, they tell you, or even your organization says, this endowment can only do 1, 2, 3, 4. There are other endowments which are mixed, whereby you can decide you're going to keep it for this amount of time, you'll use it for this specific purpose, and there are others that are open. Because maybe for a number of us, we are starting out, ensure that your endowment, the first thing you make sure is in your endowment policy document, is that you want it in perpetuity. So perpetuity meaning you want it to keep going and going and going. You do not want to start an endowment which in 5 years' time, you're going to liquidate. Because imagine, remember the analogy we're using of an individual? It's like now you have your pension, you want to eat all your pension immediately. What will happen when you retire? You become a burden, isn't it? So you must have that mentality that it's in perpetuity. I would advise that you really look at that when you're setting up your endowment. Now, I've talked about different ways, places where you can get resources. I think it's very, very important for anyone who is funding you that you have a conversation about sustainability. So when a funder comes and says sustainability, what do you think it's going to be like? Be bold and say sustainability means our organization is able to go through the tough times and continue our work. Will you contribute towards our sustainability plan? And within your sustainability plan, you have the issue of building your endowment. The worst thing that can happen is they'll say no, isn't it? The best thing that can happen is that they'll give you some funding. But you must be able to have that conversation about sustainability and be very, very clear that you have the structures, you have the systems, you have the processes in place to be able to grow your endowment and to have a sustainability plan. Some of us, maybe, how many of us are membership organizations? Okay, there are a few membership organizations. What we've seen some of our partners do is a percentage of their membership fees goes into building their endowment. So think through that, whether if you have members or even with the funding that you're receiving. having a conversation and saying 1% we want to put it towards our endowment. At KCDF, one of the things that we do as staff, because we believe in the work that we do, which is not very popular in many places where I've talked about this, but we give from our payroll. It's called payroll giving. So yes, we work for the organization, but because we believe in the work the organization does, we commit, it's a small amount, we commit a small amount to go towards the endowment. And that's helping the endowment grow. It helps us when we're discussing with funders. When a funder says, oh, why should I fund this? We're like, but even the staff, who work in this area, we fund this work. And that makes them feel, oh, okay, let's have a different conversation. So that's very important. Like I mentioned, when we were starting as KCDF with some of our partners, some of them had walks, runs to raise money. And they explained to the public, why are we doing this? We're raising money for an endowment so that in the future, we can pay scholarships without having to come back to you. So let me backtrack a bit. In Kenya, more often than not, we always have to have what we call harambes, fundraising, to be able to raise money to take people to school. So the community groups we were talking to, some of the things that they told their members is that we want to raise money from you once, only once. That money, we'll invest it. The profit is what will continue paying school fees. We will not come back to you. Now, if someone tells you that, some of us, maybe right now, we are in fundraising groups, isn't it? Oh, that doesn't happen here. Are you in fundraising groups? Yeah, black tax. So imagine if someone comes to you and says, give me money once to be able to pay school fees. I'll not come to you again. Or give me money every year for the next 10 years. Which one will you choose? The first one or the second one? The once, isn't it? So that's what the community groups did. They went to the people who had been sponsoring students in the area, told them, give us money once. And when you give us that money, we're going to invest it. Of course, some people were like, that's a get-rich-quick scheme, that's a pyramid scheme. But right now, some of them have been investing with us for 10 years, 12 years. Every year, we give them a check. Every year, we give them a check, and they go and pay school fees. And so being able to clearly communicate why you're raising the money to put into the endowment is very, very important. Because if you go and you're talking, oh, want to start an endowment, why? Because it's good for us. You must be very, very clear with your vision and clear in terms of explaining where the money will go and where you're going to invest the money to enhance accountability. So I've spoken to this. We did a lot of, some of the groups did a lot of community mobilization. We had matching grants. And one of the things we are going into now heavily in Kenya is legacy giving. So what does this mean? What does legacy giving mean? And we'll have a lot of time for questions. I know, and this was mentioned yesterday, maybe in African culture, we don't like to talk about death, but we're all going to die, isn't it? There's one time a pastor told us, you want to go to heaven, but you don't want to die. How will you reach? Eh? Have we gotten the joke? Okay, maybe that joke has passed. Eh? So you must die to go to heaven, isn't it? Now, some people have a lot of resources. They don't know what to do with it. Their children already have enough resources, or they don't have children. They care about philanthropy, they care about giving, but they don't know how to do it. We're having conversations with those people. And those people are here in this room. Everyday people like yourselves. We come and have a conversation with you. We say, so-and-so, we know you care about the sector. We know you care about, development work, social justice. Are you willing to give us a gift that will keep on giving? That's a legacy gift. So we tell them, as you're writing your will, we'll even give you a lawyer, write your will and give a portion towards this endowment that will help 1, 2, 3, 4. If I came and talked to you like that today, will you give me? Eh, someone has laughed there. I think that's a very big no. I hope it's a yes. You'll say I'm a witch, that I'm planning your death. You're not, okay, maybe we'll get there. Maybe when you know me better. We're Kenyans, we're not bad people. We're very good people, no matter what you see on TV. So we try to have this conversation with people. And there are some who have said, because I care about a community where I come from, I will give. And they have written it. And we've told those communities, don't spend all the money. You know, it will even look funny. The person passes away and you're dancing. You're so happy the money is coming. Invest it. Put it into an investment, and it will keep on giving. So think of an endowment as the gift that keeps on giving. And that's a clear way to be able to raise people who are willing to give you as a legacy gift. So like I've said, you must have a clear vision. Even when you're doing your personal finance, those of you who have met with your personal financial planner, they ask you, why are you saving? You must say why you're saving, isn't it? Even if you're saving for shoes, handbag, car, holiday, you must be clear why you're saving, because that motivates you. So the same thing with the endowment. Why are you setting up an endowment? So for us, we set up our endowment because we want to be sustainable, to continue our development work beyond just the funding that we receive. That's our vision with our endowment fund. We want to be able to use local money to deal with local problems. So you must have a very, very clear vision. When you have that clear vision, you start working on your endowment policy. Now, it doesn't have to be a 10-page, it can be 1 page, just saying our vision is this. We're going to raise money for our endowment. This is why. This is how we're going to raise money. This is where we're going to invest the money. From the profit, this is what we're going to use it for. It doesn't need to be complicated. The most important thing is that you understand it, your organization understands it. You must have SMART goals, clarity. We know SMART, it must be measurable, it must be strategic, all those, it must be achievable as well. And you cannot do it alone. So I'm happy that so many of you are here, but go and convince other people. Convince people on your board, convince your staff, convince your colleagues in the office. Because if people see the vision, the work will be lighter because you're all moving together. So going back to the KCDF story, when the conversation of endowment started, and you know, there was a concern like, no, we already have funding. Won't funders ask us why we have an endowment? But they had so many discussions to the point where they said, this is a good idea. So even having people in the room who don't agree with you initially is okay, but you work towards building a shared vision. Accountability, your oversight is very, very important. So this is what we did as KCDF, but it may not be what you want to do because you know your organization best. At KCDF, we have the foundation. So I work for the foundation. At the foundation, we do all the development work. We do all the social justice work, the grants we give, because we are a grant-making organization, capacity support. We do that at the foundation. But any asset that we have acquired, because remember when I began, I said our founders were very clear about sustainability. Any asset we have acquired over the years is not managed by the foundation. We have a trust. So the trust manages the foundation. And the trust, they say actually they act as the hawk. The hawk, you know, with the eyes, the eagle watching. That is their role. So what does that help? It helps us as the foundation. We don't start selling buildings because we want to fund our work. Because that's human nature, isn't it? If we don't have money, oh, sell this, we start funding our work. We're not able to do that. The trust oversees that. So as you think through this, think through what kind of accountability mechanism you want to guard the money. And people will give you money if they know you're going to take care of it. But people will also give you money if they know your own money is in there. So as the foundation, we keep the trust on its toes. We tell the trust, you must make sure the money is growing. You must make sure you're investing it in the right place. So those checks and balances are very, very important. And you can think through what works best for you. How we have made sure that the trust doesn't just go off on its own is that we have directors who serve in the trust. We're together. So the trustees can't just go off and sell property. But because we have directors in the foundation who sit there. And then we also at the foundation level, at the secretariat level, we also support the trust. So we always know what the trust is doing. But one key thing, one lesson I would say is keep your costs. When you set up these structures, watch out for your costs. Keep your costs low, because there's some professionals you'll have to pay. But if all the profit you're making from your endowment is going towards paying people, you're not going to make any money. So you must watch where your costs are, how your costs are growing. You must look at compliance. Are you compliant? Now in Kenya, and it may be the case here, there's no law for endowments. But what we did is that we set up our structures to align with the pensions law. And I'm sure you have pensions laws here, isn't it? So we did that because we recognize there's a regulatory vacuum, but we looked at what is the best framework to use. So we aligned with the pension law. So just because there's no law in endowments, it doesn't mean that you sit back and say, there's no law, I'm not going to do it. You must be ingenious. You must look for ways that are legal, but also that are able to help you navigate with this new or novel idea that you have around the endowment. The other thing that has made us make sure that we are very accountable is that we have limits on what we can spend from the endowment, what we can spend it on, how much we can get from the endowment. So even if we're going through a tough time, it's not that it's, that saving where you go in the drawer, you remove the money. We have to explain to the trustees why we are pulling money from the endowment. Even if it's the foundation's money, we have to give a very, very good reason. And how does that help? That helps to preserve. Remember, we don't want to eat the seed. We don't want to eat the capital we have put in. We want the money to keep on growing, growing, growing. So they manage our spending limits. So that's something that you can think through as well, so that at least half of it goes back. For us, we try, as much as we have made profit, maybe of 100, 50 must go back so that it keeps on growing and also addresses challenges that happen with investments. You must look at who is overseeing this work. Make sure you get trusted people, people who have vision, people who have expertise. So within our KCDF, we have different entities. We have made sure that we bring in people who have expertise. My background is in development. My background is in law. My background is not in investment. But we have targeted directors who are in the investment space. We don't pay them. They know they're coming, they're giving back. That is their incentive to be able to work with us. But they don't bring us shoddy advice. They bring us the best advice because they know that is their contribution. So you must make sure that you have vision bearers, people who also have expertise there. You have the policies set up. You have people who will build relationships to grow your endowment, and you have people who continue with the journey. When the endowment started, some of us were not there, but we have been sold into the idea, and now we continue with the conversation. So now it's time for homework. I'm sure you didn't expect that. Okay, you didn't expect that. Please get a piece of paper. I want to do a small assessment before we go into plenary. I've talked too much. If you were to take this conversation of endowment to your organization, what do you think the biggest bottleneck or the hardest question you will be asked is? Please write that down for me. The hardest question. And the reason why I'm asking this is KCDF, we're in partnership with CIFSOS, CIFFund, and Foundation for Civil Society in Tanzania. We are trying to help civil society to be more sustainable. So we don't want to just talk and then people go and it doesn't help them. We want to create a database of information that answers the difficult questions that you have. So please have this on a piece of paper so that then you can help us. We want to develop a frequently asked question so that we can respond to some of these challenges. So I repeat, as you go to speak about endowments, what do you think will be the biggest hurdle or the difficult question you'll be asked that you want to be able to explain? Number 2, do you feel that if you were to receive a gift today from an endowment, somebody is winding up in another part of the world and they say, we want to give you a gift to go into your endowment. Do you feel you're ready to receive it? Or do we as Africans, we just accept? We'll discuss the challenges. I always talk Kiswahili. We'll discuss the challenges ahead, or will you say, no, I'm not ready? Are we together? So someone comes to you and says, I'm ready to give you $100,000. That's too little. Eh? $1 million for you to put up your endowment. Are you ready? Do you think you have everything that it needs? They say, we'll give you 3 months to set up your structures. Will you be able to do that? Okay. And the reason why I'm asking that question is that we really want to move from talking to action. We want to be ready. Because if you don't take that first step in preparing your organization to receive an endowment or to be gifted, you'll never start. So you must start where you are with what you have, but you must start putting processes in place, even if you haven't yet raised the money. So let me give you some leakage. First, you must have, like I said earlier, an endowment policy. It doesn't need to be anything even longer than 2 pages. Explaining your vision, your target, where you're going to raise the money from, where you're going to invest the money, what you're going to use the money for, and how you're going to grow the endowment. Number 2, you must have an investment policy statement. So what does that mean? You must be clear the seed. Remember the seed we are planting. You must be clear where you're going to plant it, where you're going to dig. Are you going to invest it with Old Mutual? Are you going to invest it with, I don't know who are the big boys and girls in Uganda? Are you going to buy shares? Are you going to invest it in your government paper? You must have that very clear, your investment policy statement. So for us as KCDF, because it's an endowment, we are risk averse. We want to preserve our capital. So we've told ourselves we're going to invest in government paper, which is your treasuries, bonds, bills. We're going to invest in the stock exchange, but only in Kenya. We are very, very risk averse. And in Kenya, there are certain stocks we don't invest in because of who we are. So you must have a values-aligned investment policy. So what does that mean? We are clear because of the work that we do, we can't invest buying shares for a company that has a bad human rights track record. Even if your shares are the best, we can't buy those shares. Because we work in the area of, also work in the area of children, we can't invest in alcohol, we can't invest in tobacco, and we can't invest in betting. So even if a betting company comes to us, and as painful as it will be, and says, we want to give you $1 million, we will not take it. So you must look at who you are as an organization, what are your values, and then say, we will not get gifts from this, and this. That helps you in the future when people, because it's harder to refuse money that's on the table, isn't it? But if you know clearly beforehand, you're very clear, you're able to move and be able to make the decision to say no. We also have a conversation with our funders. Like I mentioned, we also have local funders, local corporates. For local corporates, we'll work with them 1 year, 2 years. Maybe the first year they say they won't give us administrative fees. We say, it's okay, we'll do the community work. The second year, we're like, no, we're having a conversation about administrative fees. The third year, we say, now you have to pay for people to do the work. You must be clear when you're going to say no to partnerships that are extractive rather than helping you in the partnership. So also having that clarity is very, very important. You'll see a lot of maybe some words there that maybe are foreign to us: fund manager, custodian, fund administrator, but those are the different bodies or different organs, different experts who then help you to manage the money. So like I mentioned, just to use this as an example, we have the foundation, we have the trust that oversees the assets, but we also have a private company that then looks at the investments and where we're putting the money. That does not mean that has to be your journey. That was what we chose. We're having discussions currently about changing some things, but it was felt that we needed people who every day, that is all they do. So I don't have to be here working on this. The next day, I'm trying to look at issues of which shares are doing well. But like I'm emphasizing, we must start. We must not be paralyzed in analysis, because we know the basics. We want to be sustainable. We want to be able to have our own money. So if we don't start investing today, we are already too late. Like they say in the investment world, the best time to start investing or saving is yesterday. But if you didn't do it yesterday, let's start today. Thank you so much.